Yeah, it's a delicate balance. And so the wintry mix will make a mess for many cities, including here in Columbus, Ohio. We've got freezing rain and we've got the risk of sleet that will slide across the Buckeye State tomorrow, slicking up roadways and runways, making for some treacherous travel conditions. And we'll go through the different precip types as well in almost every city. So it's not like you'll just have freezing rain. You're going to have other things to deal with, which makes it complicated and I know hard to make those decisions. Now, for Columbus, Ohio, we start with the freezing rain. And so that comes in tonight here, likely, after 10 o'clock. And so that helps by reducing the amount of vehicles that should be on the road. And so hopefully that'll cut down on issues. But we've got the winter weather advisory there. You'll go through the night with the wintry precip. You can see throughout Pennsylvania, New York State, all through southern New England and through the mid-Atlantic. And that's where we have the winter weather advisory. But we have an ice storm warning in parts of Pennsylvania. And that's in an area that could get more than 1/4 to 1/2 inch of ice. So everywhere there is that hazard when it comes to a glaze of ice creating travel problems. But especially when you're in the bright pink, that's the bigger amounts. And that's where we could have more significant challenges with tree limbs coming down, power lines coming down. So it could really be significant and damaging actually with the amount of ice accretion that we could get. When you get to that amount, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch of ice, that's when we see some tree damage with numerous power outages. It's not to the level of crippling, which can take you out for, a week or more actually in terms of power outages here. We've seen those in the past, but still this is significant. And so you need to be ready for this here. Make sure you have everything charged up. We're expecting some freezing rain through the overnight. Philadelphia, want to zoom into you and talk more about how we get to that point, what kind of precip we're going to get. We start off with what's happening through the different layers of the atmosphere, and if it's cold enough, it'll be snow, and you can see that at 18,000 feet down to 5,000 feet, but at the surface we are just at or just slightly above freezing. So we start as snow, but then we get to this point where we get into some warmer air aloft, and that's where we start to see freezing rain here. And this is Thursday morning, tomorrow morning at about 8 a.m. That's going to be very difficult for the morning commute tomorrow. Kids, people trying to get to their jobs here, likely to see delays at least. Now, more than 1 million people are under an ice storm warning. Meteorologist Jim Cantori shows us why you need to take it seriously. Let's start in the Pacific Northwest, where we've had a lot of snow days recently, haven't you? And it's not been a lot of snow, but it's been enough. And we actually still have more to come. There's still another inch or two possible in and around the lowlands, around Seattle. You can see, of course, you go up into the mountains and pass level 90 and to Stevens Pass, going to be impacted by a couple of inches of snowfall. But this is what we've seen over the past couple of days. And, especially impactful is the snow that we've had in northwestern Washington, in Oregon. We've had numerous, of course, delays. Today, again, Seattle Public Schools, they've got a 2-hour delay and they're going to do remote learning. So staying at home because of these conditions. We still have some snow showers out there. We still have some spreading across Montana where it is so cold. Temperatures have been struggling to get above zero. Then what's left of yesterday's atmospheric river is now down into Southern California, and we're getting some rain there around the Los Angeles area. So that's what's happening at the moment. It's caused concerns. So because of the risks, the Pacific Coast Highway closed between Los Angeles and Malibu due to the risk of mud and debris flows here. They haven't happened yet, but certainly that risk is a possibility. And then we've got our next storm system there on the docket coming in at the end of the week. And down in the Central Sierra, down about 55 or 58% of average. So it's good news to get that snowfall. Let's look at what's yet to come. So we've got our next system that's going to be making its way into the Pacific Northwest. We don't get a lot of breaks in between, do we? Here comes the next one. It will bring more rain into the Bay Area. It will bring more snow into the Sierra, especially above about 8,000 feet. And, we're going to get that to actually swing into Southern California yet again. There it is. And one thing you'll notice out here is that it's not as big looking as some of the other ones that we've been dealing with. It's not as strong of an atmospheric river. So it'll bring rain, but it should bring beneficial rain. So not the big rainfall rates that bring the concerns for flooding and flash flooding, especially in Southern California. So, that's key, actually. We get a lot of our rainfall in the winter from atmospheric rivers. You need them, you want them, but you just don't want the stronger ones, right? Like a Category 4, Category 5. This will be a lower scale one, and so you can see that it moves down into Southern California. It is possible that we get some flash flooding. We've been dealing with saturated conditions, especially in Sonoma County. Saw more flooding yesterday in the Russian River. So, more rain coming into this area is, of course, course, a concern in that way. But hopefully it's falling light enough that it is just beneficial. We'll get the mountain snow as well. We'll get snow spreading through the interior of Oregon into Idaho, the Sawtooth, the Bitterroots, the Tetons. All get some snow out of this. Montana, we are still cold. You're not warming up yet. And we get snow, and that spreads over into North and South Dakota as well. Maybe even Colorado, we might get a little snow out of that next one. But you can see the rainfall amounts here. It's mostly about an inch. Snowfall up at elevation could be over 1 to 2 feet or even 2 to 3 feet here. But we'll be watching this coming in starting on Thursday into Friday across the West. Greg.
Yeah, Jen, it's going to be scooting across.
That was fantastic.
It was very touching.
And I really connect with so much of what they all said.
Yes, and we all kind of started off in a similar way.
Yeah.
And it is one of those amazing fields where you can love something.
Yeah, it is here. Good luck to all of them. I watched the Weather Channel too, and how I got into the weather here back when we first got cable. You know,
I know, right?
I won't tell you when that was, but yeah. So I do think us now being on the Weather Channel, a lot of young students are watching and thinking, I might want to do that someday, or I'm just interested in science and the weather. I feel like weather just encourages folks to pursue science.
And you can do it. If you love it,
Yeah.
you can do it, make it happen, and grab life, right? Because it's, not forever.
Yeah, exactly. Well, our question of the day, since it is National Weather.
It's hard to actually capture in progress.
Right. Okay. Well, anyway, Mike said this, hurricanes. I think a little of both. Yeah. I've seen some good Mike Bettis live reports where I can't believe he's still standing. Look up exactly on what Shiner states have bans where, but we've got the wintry mix that will make a mess for many cities, including here in Columbus, Ohio. So let's look at this. First, we've got freezing rain, maybe mixing with some sleet that will slide across the Buckeye State, slicking up roadways and runways, making for some treacherous travel conditions. So we could get some of the different precip types. And if we get the sleet or snow, it does make it a little bit easier for travel. Of course, it's still cold and icy. The problem is if this is what happens. If we get all freezing rain, starting likely this evening, maybe about 9 or 10 o'clock or so, you see our temperatures sitting at 32 degrees here. This is a tough situation. And, for anything that's not treated, the roads won't be treated, but think about just walking on your driveway to get to your car. That could be very slippery and dangerous. You don't want to fall. I've seen it happen and heard it happen too many times where people fall, they break their wrists here, and it's not easy to get to the hospital because you have these icy conditions. Ice storm warnings in Pennsylvania, down into western Maryland, West Virginia, and even a little bit of northern Virginia. It's not just about the fact the ice is happening. It's about how much ice is happening in this area. 1/4 to a 1/2 inch of ice potentially there. State College, down through the Laurel Highlands. You got Johnstown, Altoona, and that Harrisburg. Really damaging amounts of ice. That weight of ice on tree branches and power lines could take them down and cause damage. So that's what we're looking at. A glaze of ice is really difficult for travel. But once you get up to this middle category, 1/4 of an inch to 3/4 of an inch, you get tree damage, you get numerous power outages. Be ready, have things charged just in case that happens to you with the power outage. We've got the heavier ice you can see back towards Reading in Pennsylvania. Philadelphia, you've got about 1/10 to 1/4 of an inch of ice. But we saw what happened with just over 1/10 of an inch of ice in Kansas City this morning. You're really hard hit with some major issues on the interstates and side streets there, especially in parts of the Kansas City area. So Philly, I'm worried about that for you, where our temperatures are below freezing when the precip comes in. And if it's snow at first, great. That's much easier, right, for travel. But we don't think the snow is going to last. And so we get into that freezing rain, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning. This is the time when buses and traffic is getting out for that morning commute and morning drive. A dangerous time for that with the temperatures below freezing. And you don't get above freezing until later in the morning. And so that's the challenge for deciding what to do tomorrow. I think it's pretty easy to say when it's icy out everywhere to not go out. But of course, your challenge is, do you have a delay or do you have something else? Harrisburg, we've got a lot of freezing rain potential, more than 1/4 of an inch, maybe up to a 1/2 inch. We start with temperatures today that are above freezing. So this is what sets the stage. But by the time the precip moves in, we're dropping and we're down below freezing. So now we've got freezing rain happening through the overnight hours. What time do we start to warm back up? Well, I mean, maybe by about 10 or 11 o'clock or so. Could it be a few hours later? It's possible. That's the thing about cold air, is it always surprises us sometimes with how heavy and dense it is and how long it sticks around. It does extend how much ice you get, because that can help refrigerate the air. We've got a lot there in State College, 1/4 to a 1/2 inch of freezing rain potential. So for us, we are below freezing at the start of it. So everything is very easily freezing on contact, any untreated surfaces. You can see our temperatures are down in the upper 20s, so even colder here throughout the morning. This lasts until late morning, if not even early afternoon, until we go back above freezing here. So it's at least the first half of the day really difficult and not impossible for travel with that kind of freezing rain. Greg.
Well,